Hey class, welcome to week 4 of COMM 313 for the spring 2019 semester. Before we begin our class today, I want to go over a few things so that way everybody is aware. I want to let you know that I did update our syllabus to reflect what happened last week with the snow week. So if you click on the syllabus link and download the new syllabus, you will see it says updated February 6, 2019 right here. Go ahead and click on it. Our new syllabus will open. If you scroll down to our week, you'll see what I changed. So 130 was a snow week. I pretty much moved everything down to week 7. So week 7 was a group work week. So I took that week out and I literally just moved everything down. So nothing changed too much or too dramatically. You still do have your group project week during week 12 here. So that should give you enough time to work on your group project. I will request um, some things that you complete with your group during these weeks, so that way you guys can at least get the ball rolling. So we're going to go ahead and review our group project next week, review how to use Zoom, and then take our first quiz, which will be online in Sakai next week for week 5. But this week, for week 4, we are going to review chapters 2 and 3. So let's go ahead and look at our lessons for this week. If you scroll here, you'll see week 4. The only thing you need to complete this week is obviously watch this video lecture I'm recording now, but also read chapters 2 and 3. You won't have anything else to complete, like an activity or an assignment or anything like that. I want you guys to concentrate on chapters 2 and 3 to have a good understanding of both of these chapters. In addition, I also included the syllabus right here as well. So not only is it located in the syllabus tab up here, but it's also located under the lessons tab here under week 4. So if you click on it, same thing should open up. You'll see all the same information here as well. And I do want to remind you, I put our weekly lectures on the additional items for the week, but if you ever want to just have them all in one place, you could click on the resources tab here, and then you'll see, usually you'll come in and it will look like this. Then you could click on PowerPoint lectures, and you'll see chapters 1, 2, and 3 here. So as we lecture on them, I will go ahead and upload them here. Alright, so let's go ahead and go back to our lesson page. We'll go ahead and start on our chapter 2 lecture. So today we're going to talk about chapter 2, which gives you a little background about corporate communication and contemporary organizations. We're going to look at a few different items, but for the overview, we're going to look at the historical development of communication, the strategic role of corporate communication, effective organization of communication, and changing definition, scope, and organization of communication and organizations. So let's take a look a little bit at the historical background. Let's look at early corporate communication. So it began at least 150 years ago, and it started in the Industrial Revolution from the 1930s. This was an era of mass production and consumption, where there was complex industrial firms which sought government support. So you had all these companies who needed to start communicating, whether it was with the public, stakeholders, whatever it may have been. And this is kind of where it really first began, because you had a lot of press, you had a lot of news in these days that where people wanted to start knowing information and whatnot. So now the corporations had to start communicating with the public as well. So activity based on publicity, promotions, and selling activity. So it's conducted by press agents, promoters, and propagandists. Publicity seeking approach. So a lot of these organizations were looking to try to get publicity to really get their names out. And this is definitely a form of corporate communication, because you are trying to get that PR, that public relations, out to everybody. But in this day and age, when they were really trying to get this publicity, it was nothing compared to what it's like today. They were answerable to no government or watchdogs, and they played on gullible public who wanted to be entertained. often so exaggerated it was lies. So you had a lot of this communication coming out of corporations, even with the news as well. And you really didn't have the government watching over them to make sure things were being done ethically and morally. So at the same time, they played on a gullible public who really just wanted to be entertained. People like reading far-fetched stories because it really grasped their interest. So let's take a look into the early 20th century. So we have our muckrackers. They're investigative journalists who expose scandals associated with power, capitalism, and government corruption, and they raise public awareness of unethical and harmful practices. The response to this was that large organizations hired writers and former journalists as spokespeople in pursuit of public approval. So you had these muckrackers who were pretty much calling out what people in the media if they were lying, if there was some kind of scandal. And so, what companies would do is they would hire these journalists because they would have already built their credibility with the public. So, when you hire someone who has that credibility within the public, it's going to really help your organization get their message across by someone who is a trusted source. And of course, the market stabilized or declined at this time. And the response was that organizations hired advertising agents to promote products. So, this is when you really first started seeing organizations hiring outside sources to promote a product or service to really help get it out there. So between the 1920 to 1930, you had economic reform in the U.S. and U.K. We're not going to spend too much time on this slide, but have a good idea how public relations and marketing emerged as two separate external communication disciplines. So they weren't together as one; they were separate as public relations and marketing in its own. And before 1980s, marketing and PR were considered distinct in their objectives and activities. Marketing dealt with markets, and public relations dealt with the public. Later, marketing and public relations began to develop as an integrated activity, using PR to launch products, and so on and so on. And then you have a couple links here from your book, from The Body Shop and Starbucks. So since the 1980s, PR marketing have started to be integrated, and it was pioneered with Kotler and Mindak, and the umbrella management function was really under its corporate communication. So this is kind of where you really started seeing PR and marketing being used together to help promote a product or a service. So marketing and public relations activities and their overlap. So if you look here with inside your book, you're going to see this example here. So it's kind of like what we talked about. You had marketing and PR separate. Then you had marketing and PR. They kind of integrated with one another. And then here in this one, you could see you have marketing and they discuss public relations in the marketing. Whereas here you have public relations and they discuss marketing within the public relations. So this is kind of when you're using PR to help promote a product or vice versa. And part E is marketing is equal to PR. They're going to be the same thing. So here's the models of the for the relationship between marketing and public relations. So you could see here we have marketing and here we have public relations. So marketing is C and public relations is D. You could see, excuse me, you could see there we have marketing communications where you have a little bit more of marketing and then you have some public relations. And then when you have these two combined, you're going to see with F&A, you're going to have your advertising. And this is where we advertise products. So drivers for integration. So market and environment-based drivers. So stakeholder roles overlap now in marketing and corporate communications. You have internal communication is inseparable from external communication. So this demands for greater transparency. So what does this mean? Internal communication within an organization is usually when an organization is telling its employees or current board of directors what's going on in an organization, how are they doing. Well, now it's really from external communication, and it's to the point where the public, the external communication factor, wants to know what's going on internally. So this is why organizations now, you're going to see much greater transparency with what they're doing internally and how they're communicating internally as well. And you have your communication-based drivers. You have your greater amounts of message clutter, and there's increased message effectiveness through consistency and reinforcement of core messages. And of course, you have your media multiplication requires control of communication channels. How are they going to be communicating? And you have your organizational drivers, where now organizations are looking to have that improved efficiency. They're also being held of higher accountability, and they have provision of strategic direction and purpose through consolidation. So the organization of corporate communications, so disciplines, they were really distinct, complementary, and they were also integrated with one another. So here you can see corporate communication as an integrated framework for actually managing communication. So you have your corporate communication going from left to right. So you have your public affairs, the issues of management, investor relations, media relations, so on and so on. And you can see that all the corporate communication that occurs within one organization. And the organization of corporate communication with Siemens, if you've not heard of them, they are they kind of think of them like Verizon, but they're pretty big in Europe and other parts of the world. So here's how it works. You have your director of corporate communication, and these people are their support. You have your market communications, your employee communications, media relations, and this is where everything falls under. So for corporate responsibility, this is where maybe you have coordinating CR programs or even corporate citizenship as well. So you can kind of see how this flows and how this chart works within corporate communication. So vertical structures, these are used by multi-divisional and multinational companies, and they divide each organization's primary tasks into smaller tasks and activities. And this is really something that really links to the CEO or senior management. And most senior corporate communication professional likely to have a seat at these executive boards. So if you do see the CC here, it's going to stand for corporate communication. Then, of course, you have your horizontal structures, and these allow professionals to respond fast to emergent issues, and they provide control and ensure really that consistent message gets across. So let's take a look at the mechanisms for the horizontal work. So there are a few things that you need to consider when you're looking at the multidisciplinary task or project team. You know, these are things that you have to understand while moving forward in an organization. You need to make sure that these mechanisms for this horizontal work are actually working, such as, you know, council meetings or natural work team or task force team and so on. So council meetings, these are representatives from different communication disciplines, and they meet to discuss really the strategic issues for the core organization. So in this book, we're going to be discussing, you know, if you see a council meeting, what that means is that it's really when you have representatives meeting to discuss strategies for the organization. And in addition, they provide the ideas for improved coordination between disciplines, and of course, allow personal relations worldwide to develop. So the communication guidelines, you know, you have your agreed work procedures, who to contact if something happens, even formatting of messages as well. So keep that in mind for chapter 2. It's nothing really too detailed that you really need to know about, but just really the overview of what chapter 2 discusses. Whereas with chapter 3, now we're going to kind of start getting into a little bit more detail, and we're going to look at the corporate communication and changing media environment. Like, you know, we're in a digital age of technology right now where media is constantly changing, whether it's with social media or how journalists might communicate or even how corporations communicate with the public. With our changing media environment, there's a lot that's going to need to be understood for corporate communications. So in this chapter, we're going to categorize exactly what new media is. We're going to discuss challenges and opportunities around these tools and technologies. And we're going to outline practical benefits of social media and Web 2.0 technologies for corporate communications. So think of some what social media sites you can think of. You know, we have so many out there, whether it's, you know, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and then who do organizations communicate with using social media? Usually it's, you know, business to consumer, B2C. The businesses are reaching out to the consumers. So we have a shift from we have a shift from classic model of communication where professionals lays with new channels. Now other sites are offering content on organizations. So it's not just the organization that's providing information about themselves, but you now have, with the emergence of social media and other digital technology, you have other people discussing these corporations. And employees become corporate communication professionals, you know, whether if it's sharing corporate information or using email, blogs, and social networking. So the challenge with this is that managing and controlling the corporate message can be difficult to do. So you want to make sure that when you are in a corporation and you are dealing with communication, you want to make sure you control what kind of corporate message you're trying to get out, whether it's to internal or external stakeholders, which we will talk about in an upcoming chapter. So with opportunities, you do have new ways to reach engaged stakeholders, especially with social media. Now you're able to really reach out to people. You're even able to promote your organization or even be transparent by using social media, whether you're creating an update of something within the organization, posting it on the Facebook page. You can also have conversations with consumers, and you really adopt an authentic voice. People start seeing how transparent your organization is because you are communicating with so many people. If you're not familiar with Dollar Shave Club, let's go ahead and take a look at. I want to show you a good example. Dollar Shave Club is a great organization which utilizes social media for its benefit. So they actually talk to pretty much all of their customers. Whoever responds on their social media sites will really usually get a response. Let's see here. Let's see if we have a commercial. Yeah, so you could see, they like to respond to their customers. They're really transparent in what they do, and they're actually pretty funny as well. So if you have some time and you want to take a look to see how they communicate it, you can really have a good understanding of what it takes to communicate with clients and customers. Here, not so much on this post, but you'll see that they do like to communicate, and even if you do send a message, they will usually respond to you right away. So the new media landscape now is a really big game changer for corporate communication. Now you have command and control models. So no longer about digital information consumption and break from the traditional message flows. So the way that this new media is landscape, there really isn't a structured way on how to communicate or what to do. It's really kind of all over the place in a sense where you're able to speak with whomever you want at any given time. So, social media causes changes for corporate communication professions, such as dialogue, news about organizations, or even stakeholder perceptions. You're building your brand on social media as well, so it's important to make sure that that brand you are building, you're really taking your stakeholders' perceptions in the way that you want them to really take it. So the access. So 2/3 of the world's population has visited a blogging or networking site. So you can see that with the uh, growing of social media and the emergence of all this technology around the world, you can see quite a bit of people are getting access to social media and digital technology. So I do want to take a look at clarifying terms of exactly what social media is, which I'm sure you all know what it is, but let's take a look at the definition that the book discusses. It's a group of internet-based applications that build on the ideological and technological foundations of Web 2.0 and that allow for the creation and exchange of user-generated content. So Web 2.0, it's a general ideological and technological shift in the use of online technologies. So now with this new web of how we're able to communicate, people are really going to use this platform of social media to communicate with others. So what's the difference between the traditional and new media environment? So you can see here we have our column of traditional and new media. So let's take a look at the communication approach. So broadcasting. Stakeholders are as audiences receive messages from the organization in a controlled and planned manner. Whereas now you have crowdcasting. Stakeholders as participants produce or forward content about the organization. So you can see the difference in the jump of how it works between traditional media environment and now with our new media environment of all this digital technology. And you also have your difference between owned, paid, and earned media in an online setting. So let's take a look at the difference between owned, paid, and earned media. Let's take a look at examples. An example of owned media is like a website that a company may own. So going to dollarshaveclub.com, that's an example of owned media. Paid media is displayed ads, paid search, and sponsored links. So maybe if you're scrolling through Instagram or Facebook and you see Dollar Shave Club and right under their name it says sponsored, that means they're paying for this media to actually be showed. And then you have your earned media, such as like word of mouth or online character, buzz, or viral content. So maybe, Dollar Shave Club posts a funny commercial and they don't run any advertising or paid media for it, but it goes viral. That is going to be your earned media. So your classification of social media, this really kind of gives you your social presence and media richness, where you have low, medium, and high. So you have your, oops, let's go back. You have your, with your high side, this is like more of your virtual social world, such as Second Life. Medium is more of social networking sites, such as Facebook, and then blogs are more of your low social media richness. So blogs, you have over 175,000 new blogs being created daily, and they're really just something that's very easy to put together and just to start typing away. And you can all have your own blog, and depending on how successful your blog is, how much time you're going to put into it. Of course, corporate communication professionals must monitor and engage with influential bloggers, such as opinion leaders, industry analysts, or journalists. It's important for these corporations to communicate with them so they're all on the same page and they have a built a trust of relationship. So why maintain a corporate blog? So 73% of journalists use blogs when researching a story, and blogs create a personal connection with users as well. So when you do have a blogs for a corporation, it's really you're letting them kind of know, hey, this is our PR work. This is where we're going to be posting items, for the press, the journalists, and so on. And you also have collaborative projects such as joint or simultaneous collaboration between individuals in an online setting, wikis such as users add, they remove or change text-based content, or even social bookmarking applications that allow these individuals to rate internet links and media content. So your most famous wiki is Wikipedia, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. Please don't ever use Wikipedia to source any of your school projects. So you have your social networking sites. We won't spend too much time on this, but I'm sure you guys are all familiar with Facebook, how to use it, and then of course your content communities, which your applications for sharing media content, whether it's text, photos, videos, or even PowerPoint. And then, of course, you have YouTube, where companies can set up a YouTube channel, record videos, and have followers on YouTube, which exactly how you're watching this video right now. And of course, corporate challenges. You have issues around copyright material. That can always be an issue if you're using someone else's content. Sharing corporate documents without permission. It's easier to do, and even though it's not allowed, some people still do it. And then you have your virtual social world, such as games like Second Life. This is where users adopt a really personal virtual ego, and they play out their life in games like this. And then, of course, your virtual game world, such as online role playing and games. And with our conclusions, you do have things you need to consider. There's always new challenges and opportunities. It brings a new model to corporate communication, not just online, and you have these new platforms for conversations and engagement. So thank you everybody for tuning in during week 4. Please keep in mind, next week we will be going over a few different items here. Let's go ahead and open up our syllabus. Scroll down here and you're going to see during week 5 we're going to go over our group project week. So please make sure to log in early because you will find out who is in your group, and we're also going to be looking in on how to use Zoom. If you would like, go to zoom.us and you can always create your account now. Start playing around with it. You can download their technology onto your computer. You just click sign up. It's free here, and follow the steps and start familiarizing yourself with it. So thank you so much everybody. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you guys all next week. Take care.